Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is March the 23rd, 2026. Hopefully this episode finds you well, in good spirits and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Happy Monday, happy Garfield Day to ya. Hopefully you got that lasagna for yourself today. I know for me and myself, I did. It was a pretty good day. It was a pretty chill, relaxed day. I will say I had one baby crash out. Nothing major, nothing too bad. We all got to walk away clean, but I'll get to that. But no, we started off our day pretty nice and easy breezy. Got up, got to work, and I got to my area, my trash compactors. And there were a lot of buggies, more so than usual. But I mean, these things can happen on a Monday. Most likely something happened where they weren't able to put someone on the crusher Sunday night. Things just piled up, and here we are. But, got right on it, stayed on the crusher all day, so we love to see that. Now where did the crash out happen? The crash out actually happened where I am at my most vulnerable, which is probably what leads to these kind of moments, right? I was in the restroom and, using the facilities, taking a constitutional, if you will. And, someone opens up the door and just starts clomping, like, pump, 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 like over to the stall. Stands like right on the side of it. Like, and it's like, it's posturing like that I hate. And at this point I look at the boots and I see exactly who it is and I know who it is. It's a guy who is kind of notorious for pissing me off. And more times than not, I just sit on it. I don't say anything. But like, I am literally about to wrap up here. And here you come clomping in and making a scene for nothing. And luckily there's no one there at the moment. But then someone walks in and, proceeds to say like, hey man, what are you doing? And he goes, oh, I'm trying to take a shit. Da 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 da. So I proceed to wrap up at this moment or whatever. And I clomp my way to the door. And I go, hey, I'm just wrapping up. Here you go. And I'm like, yeah, I guess our rhinestone cowboy really had to take one, huh? And I say this because he walks around with some like shitty cowboy hat, looking like a fucking Timu Brookback Mountain motherfucker. Anyway, I was upset. He took it though, so it is what it is. There wasn't any kind of beef or any animosity. I think he knew he was out of pocket, and it's just me calling that shit out, literally. But after that, there really wasn't any problems. More, like I said, more times than not, I don't say anything to a guy like that. I try to be nice, but that just sent me. You literally got me with my pants down, bro. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. Yeah. Not to mention, there are multiple restrooms in my warehouse. Like, we have to have them because we literally sometimes have like 1,000+ people in a warehouse, right? So we have to have multiple places to use it. Okay, you did not have to sit there and stand there and make a fucking scene. You could have walked your fucking ass somewhere else and do it. I do that shit all the time if the fucking stall is taken. Like, get the fuck out of my face with that shit. Okay, but anyway, rest of the day was good, or at least the rest of the workday was good. And from there, we proceed to go to the gym. Gym was busy. It's Monday, as is predicted. I wasn't able to get on the Smith machine. I was able to do free weights, which was good. Did like a double set there. Wasn't able to get all of my filler, but I did get most of it when everything was said and done. I got my core work in as well. And I did 30 minutes on the Stairmaster, and then 15 on the elliptical and 15 on the bike. So that was my cardio. Honestly, pretty good for a Monday. After the workout, we come home, I stretch, I have a snack, and do some research, compile all the news. And here we are, ready to yap about said news. So yeah, let's go ahead and do our startup and let's get into the news. Oh yeah, also worth mentioning. I think I did this episode. I want to say it was like Thursday night, but there is an episode up on the Patreon for the Newsies. I talk about the Cesar Chavez situation with the United Farm Workers, as well as Dolores Huerta, all that stuff. It just wasn't something that I wanted to put on the main, but it is available on the pod if you wanted to listen. Obviously, I mean TDLR there. Chavez, bad guy. UFW, still a good movement. Definitely just had to come to that reckoning. Wish it had come a lot sooner. But anyway, we'll leave that there if you are interested. But let's go ahead and get into it. Our first story comes from CNN World. At least 8 dead, 83 injured as Colombian military plane crashes on takeoff. A Colombian military transport plane crashed on takeoff in the southern department of Putumayo, killing at least 8 people and injuring 83, according to Governor John Gabriel Molina. Now, I did just look at an update before I started recording, and I saw that number went up to at least 34. The accident involved a C-130 Hercules aircraft and occurred in Puerto Leguizamo, a town in Putumayo department, bordering Peru. The cause of the crash has not yet been determined, Defense Minister Pedro Sanchez said, adding there's no indication of an attack by criminal groups. The plane was in airworthy condition and the crew was duly qualified, he said. It was carrying 114 passengers and 11 crew members, according to General Carlos Silva, commander of the Colombian Aerospace Force. 2 of the passengers were police officers and 112 were members of the military, Molina said. So that is one big airplane accident that happened. Our next story is going to be coming out of New York from the Associated Press. Two pilots killed when jet collides with fire truck at New York's LaGuardia Airport. An Air Canada jet carrying more than 70 passengers collided with a fire truck while landing at New York's LaGuardia Airport late Sunday, killing the pilot and co-pilot and injuring several others, officials said. The impact severed the cockpit and hurled a flight attendant still secured to her seat far from the crash site. Her daughter told a Canadian TV station the flight attendant survived, which is a miracle in and of itself. The fire truck was crossing the tarmac just before midnight after being given permission to check on another plane that had aborted its takeoff. Apparently, the reason for that plane was that there was some kind of leak and there was some kind of smell. And they're like, okay, we got to get to that. We got to handle that. But before the collision, an air traffic controller can be heard on airport communications frantically telling the fire truck to stop. Roughly 20 minutes later, the controller appears to blame himself. We were dealing with an emergency earlier, the controller said. I messed up. About 40 passengers and crew members on the regional jet from Montreal and 2 people from the fire truck were taken to the hospital, some with serious injuries. Most were released by Monday morning, authorities said. Let's see here. I think that at least the lane was closed, or might still be closed for the investigation. But I believe that overall it was opened up, in terms of the airport as a whole is still operational and whatnot. Let's see here. Also, it's worth noting too, obviously we've been talking a bit about TSA. None of that has anything to do with this, though it is worth noting that they have air traffic controller shortages just as it is. I think, was it Sean Duffy or whatever, Department of Transportation, was saying that they are down about 4 people that they usually should have for their actual numbers and quotas and stuff like that. So that's obviously a concerning problem that it's like, hey, this has just been an ongoing thing. And, essentially you're just kind of limping along. like that. It almost makes you feel like something like this is almost like an inevitable thing. But it is worth noting that I think it has been over 30 years. I might be getting it wrong with the number, but I think it's 34 since there was an accident, like a fatal accident at LaGuardia. I feel like, yeah, this is the first fatal crash at LaGuardia in 34 years, Garcia said. So, I mean, hey, that's something that worth mentioning. Obviously, it's still unfortunate whenever it happens, but even with the high amount of stress and, just the fact that people are pulling, extra duty as is in the situation that, for so long, something like this hasn't happened. I think that's worth, commending in and of itself, I guess. Let's see here. I feel like though the rest we could say are kind of details. Definitely I would say important, but I really just wanted to cover at least the situation as is. And I imagine we will come back if there is any more updates, pending investigation and whatnot. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to our last main story that I wanted to cover for today. Let's see here. Actually, I'm scrolling up a little too far. This is from Yahoo Sports, but I'm reading a specific story from the Sporting News. Dayton Weber shooting updates. What to know about quadruple amputee pro cornhole player facing multiple charges. Okay. Dayton Weber, a professional cornhole player with no arms or legs, was arrested and is expected to be charged with the murder of another 27-year-old man. Weber has been a member of the American Cornhole League for the last 4 years and defied the odds to make the league despite his disability. However, the alleged incident occurred over the weekend when Weber shot a man after there was a disagreement between the two. Professional cornhole player and quadruple amputee Dayton Weber was arrested on Monday for allegedly shooting and killing Bradrick Wells in La Plata, Maryland. According to the Charles County Sheriff's Office, Weber was driving a car when he shot Wells, who was in the front passenger seat during an argument. Weber then asked the rest of the passengers to get the victim out of the car, but when the passengers refused and left the vehicle, Weber drove away with Wells still inside. Obviously that's a lot to process, I feel, because when I first heard this story, I had two questions. So he's driving. He was the driver. I'm like, and that's immediately like, okay, I understand, especially with his mobility, he was able, especially I imagine with something like to, use to like operate the brakes and whatnot, and brakes and gas pedal, you can make that work. Okay. But then the other part of this, which was the gun, the firearm, and it's like also you find out he has multiple firearms. It's like, how is he shooting them? I was very curious about that. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm just a man. I'm just a young, dumb American man. What can I say? I was very curious. Also, though, I will add, it took me a while to find this specific article because I felt like a lot of the ones I was reading they're just kind of junky about it. And they were doing it kind of, unfortunately, the way I was, where it was just like asking that question, but you were saying that like 5 times in the article. And it's like, obviously you're trying to make, I guess the most novelty out of this, or I don't know. It just felt weird and I didn't like that. But this one was, the most straight up article that I found to read, which was useful. Good. Shout out to, what is it? Then we're going to scroll back up. What is this called again? The Sporting News. They did a good job. Thumbs up. But I was able to watch a video, which they have the link to in this article, that shows him shooting a firearm. And I'm like, okay, so once you see him do it, he's very, proficient in terms of just being able to be like, I can, do everything that any normal person can do with the gun, So it's like, okay, well, there you go. Say less. That's your American right, brother. Yee. Unfortunately, he used that to kill someone, allegedly. I guess I got to say that, right? So that's sad. That is unfortunate. Also crazy too to be like, hey, I'm gonna do this thing, and then immediately be like, hey guys, help me, deal with the body. It's like, no, bro, we're out of here. Like, what the fuck? 2 hours after the alleged incident occurred, police responded to a 911 call where they found the body and pronounced Wells dead. Then, after getting a warrant for Weber's arrest, police found Weber's car in Charlottesville, Virginia, where Weber was getting treated at a local hospital. Weber will be extradited to Charles County and be dealt with charges that include first-degree murder and second-degree murder. Let's see here. Now, I don't know like exactly what the name of his disease was or is that they had to treat, but it was an infection that he got at 10 months old. And I gave him a 3% chance of living and required doctors to amputate his arms and legs in order to save him. But he was a determined individual and, just doing professional cornhole, not in any kind of, different, special league or anything like that. He was just like, no, my disability is not going to affect any of this. I'm just going to be out throwing the bag with like everybody else with everybody else. Yeah, I guess in that way, that is something to, be like, hey, cool, go for it. Cool that you went after it. Yeah, it's not cool that you killed someone. That's obviously not too good, not too great. But yeah, that's I was gonna say, oh, that's it. That's really all we have. But there was a bit of a rundown. Like it's weird how when I looked at all the stories today, I was like, there was really only about one story I had, two, which were the first two, the LaGuardia and then the Colombia plane. I had just sat down before recording and found that story. So I was like, okay, but I know if I look around, there's a lot going on. So I figured we go ahead and just do a rundown, just kind of read through the Google News ticker a little bit and just pick and choose some headlines and, I don't know, yap about them a little bit. So yeah, let's go ahead and take our last break and then we'll do that rundown real quick and call it a night or day, depending on when you're listening to this. Okay. So, they have Trump in Iran. Apparently, Trump says that they have been talking and they have been having good talks, and there might be an end to the war. But if you listen to Iran, they're like, that's not happening. Like, we're not doing that. That's not what's been going on at all. The strait is closed. We said what we said. So there's a bit of that there. The stock market's also kind of getting jerked around by this, which for some reason to me, I find it a little bit baffling that like I could understand right after the war starts. Trump says what he says, that makes the price kind of come back down. But then you hear from what Iran is saying, okay, price comes back up. More things keep happening tit for tat, things stay up. Things, do not come down, right? In terms of oil pricing and all that shit. It's kind of crazy to me that Trump can still keep yapping and that does keep affecting the price. Hey, that is the power of the American president. I guess I'll say that much. But once again, he's saying a lot, but Trump always says a lot. Like, where's the action? Where's the proof in the pudding? Like, all we're seeing is just more war. So I don't know, man. And also it's crazy too, because Trump will say one thing and then say another within the same 24-hour cycle. Sometimes in the same speech. So, like, once again, I just don't get how the market actually responds to that in actually any kind of real way. But it does every day, all the time. But needless to say, we'll see how things go there. Let's see. Let's move on. There were some European election talk stuff. I know France had some elections, if I'm not mistaken. I'm once again, I don't really want to get into any of the specifics. But that's relevant. I think there was some kind of voting in Italy. I believe there was a referendum defeat that, I don't know, it's making Meloni not look too good, not too strong in her pantsuit right now. Not very girl boss time for her. But, we'll see. We'll see how things go there. I don't know. It's just, I guess, worth mentioning, I'll say. Also, 4 Jewish charity ambulances were set on fire in suspected London anti-Semitic hate crime. I imagine if there's any more details or developments there, we'll be coming back to a story like that coming out of the UK. Like I said, with Europe, Slovenia has also got some election stuff, I think, as well as Denmark. That was more or less all I really wanted to talk about. Israel is doing strikes in Tehran. I feel like the compromise for Israel, because they came out and said, okay, all right, we talked to Trump. We won't hit any more like gas fields or any kind of energy infrastructure. Okay, all right. Even though Trump is also, like I said before, talking out of both sides of your neck, talking about hitting nuclear infrastructure. So it's like, Okay, all right. But for Israel, they're like, well, we still want to keep trying to hunt for just people. We're just going to keep killing people. AKA, we're going to try to do a regime change. We're going to try to, eliminate Iran's top officials. Like, okay, man, whatever you're calling this shit today. But yeah, they're hitting Tehran. That's been a thing. So I don't know. Like I said, that's pretty much all I have. Just a bit of a little dry fire there. I don't know. That's it. That's all I got for today. Let's see. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, I do have a Patreon. Patreon.com/Isaiah News. Become a newsie today. Free ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Subscribe to the YouTube, follow on TikTok, follow on Spotify, follow on Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to listen. Oh, excuse me. Leave a like, leave a cool comment. Sharing is caring. 5 stars or, as many stars as you can are always appreciated. Thank you. But if you don't do that, that's okay. I just appreciate you listening. I just appreciate you hanging out with me while I talk about my day, talk about my little shit stories, an attempt to, describe the happenings of the world around us. But yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.